Today I would like to talk about the array reduce method, which I felt is something quite a number of us may not be using it regularly because we do not know how it really works, or that it seems a little bit more complicated. However, I think this is something we can definitely overcome by looking at more examples and trying it out. So without further ado, let's get started. So what I have over here is just an array of 10 numbers. Now, as with array, what the common operation we can do is to find the summation, the minimum, and the max. And usually we can simply use a for loop for that. Now, the typical use case for the reduce happen to be the summation. So let's get started by showing how this is actually done. And I'll be like trying to explain how it really works using this. Okay. The first argument for this is accumulator, this, and followed by the current value. Now we want to use the term accumulator, and I'll explain what this actually is all about. What we can really do is to look at how this reduce is going to work, and that is just have to remember the main operation for reduce is that it will take each iteration, each array element one at a time, do some processing, and then return the value. And subsequently, right, this will just go on such that ultimately there will be only one value or one object that is to be returned. So here we can simply do show you how this really works is we can just look at the two value. Now always remember that we have to return the value. So let's suppose we return the current value. Let's print it out. So you can see here is that at first start when there's actually an optional initial value that can be specified as the argument, but we were not using the initial value. The accumulator will be the first array element, and this means the current value will be the second array element, as you can see from here. And that as we are returning the current value for each round or for each iteration, you see that the accumulator will now contains the current value that was written in the previous iteration. So the accumulator is nothing but just a so-called container to store all intermediate result that as you process, as you do all the calculations, and you need somewhere to store all this value, so you just sort of put it inside the accumulator and you return it. You have to explicitly return whatever value that you want, and this will go into the accumulator. This will be like pass on to the next guy. Now, with this in mind, how can we actually do the sum? So here, what we can really do is that you notice that when we just returning current value, so what if we just actually return the accumulator but the current value? So you'll be seeing that, okay, so what we have from the previous operation and we just add on to the current value. So this will actually effectively give us the sum. So let's try that out. So there you go. So I think we just print out this that will give a better idea what is the actual sum from here. There you go, we have 55. Now, let's take a closer look at the example over here. The initial value that we have is 1. That's the first array element. And then means that the current value that I have is 2. So we add it up. The sum is 3. This is actually returned to be used by the next iteration, the next round. And In this case, the current value happened to be 3 as well. So we add this up and this becomes 6. And so this go on. Now, of course, you will say that just using this sum seems to be very trivial and kind of over-engineering to use the array reduce method. I cannot really agree less, but let's maybe what we can do is to come up with a little bit more complicated example to show how this reduce method can help us. So the example I have in mind, slightly more advanced, is that let's say we want to return, let's say we want to know, okay, the total number of even numbers, the total number of odd numbers, or if and their respective sum. And then how can we actually do that in a way that ultimately we will just return the output as a single object. So we're not dealing like four separate variable actually, but we can like return a single object. So let's get started on this. What we can do is this will be the even number of the total number of even number, the total of numbers, and this would be the sum, and this would be the sum for the odds. So what I'm going to have is that I'm going to really pass the object for each round. So every time each at end of the round, I will actually return an object, and this will be the 4 attributes. And let's implement the logic for this. So if my current value is going to be even number, then I will actually increase the as well as the even numbers. Current value to that. Else, I'll just do the other way. And remember to just return all the 4 variables. Now, in this case, we will actually need to return or to actually provide with a initial value that could be an empty array, because otherwise we will not be able to work with the first value 1. So let's run the program. Sorry about that. As you can see, we are able to in just using one method, and the reduce, we can at one time determine what is the or the even number or the odd numbers, and then we move on to the next array element. So we're actually doing this one at a time, and the final output we have is actually is object by itself. So we are dealing, this is the benefit of having the reduce function. We can reduce multiple, we can actually output multiple value by just returning a single object. And I hope that this has been a useful example for you, and that will encourage you to try out the reduce method. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.